Hello again and Happy New Year. It's now 2015 and I was hoping to get my Mastertronic Chronicles collection summaries all finished before Christmas. There's a couple of reasons why that didn't happen. One was lack of time and the other was before Christmas I did a video about the rarest Mastertronic games, and in that video I speculated that the five-a-side soccer game did not actually exist in the format I was looking to collect, i.e. the cassette based budget version. Responses to that video suggest that, or in fact confirm, that the game does exist, and I've actually now got in touch with a collector in Germany who is going to provide me with a copy of that game. So there will be one more game review to come. Consequently, some of my summaries have been delayed a little bit because of that. This one, however, is not one of those. This is the summary of the top 10 best Mastertronic re-releases. That's games re-released by Mastertronic that were originally released by other companies. So kicking off that top 10, we have Aliens, the UK version. Ricochet re-released by Mastertronic, originally released by Electric Dreams in 1987. It was re-released by Mastertronic in 1988. Quite obviously it's based on the Aliens movie from 1986, directed by James Cameron, one of my favourite movies of all time in fact. And it's a pretty good recreation of the movie. You've got to infiltrate the complex, destroy the aliens, and eventually make your way to the alien queen and destroy the alien queen. Not exactly the same plot as the movie, but close enough. This is probably only in the top 10 for one reason, and it's more for the originality of the game than the actual gameplay. I'm not actually very good at the game, so it's an early example of a squad-based first-person shooter or survival horror. You move around, you've got a squad of 6 characters, you can move from room to room, either together as a squad or individually to explore the complex. You can move around by giving keyboard controls to the squad members, sending them north, east, west, south, for however many rooms you want to send them, so you can get one player to join the other players quite quickly by doing that. It does need a map drawing to progress successfully throughout the game, and I've never done that, and that's probably why I'm not particularly good at it. It's got really nice graphics, quite simplistic backgrounds, but the graphics of the aliens are cool and well animated. Sounds minimal, but when it is used, it's used to great effect. Mainly when an alien's approaching one of your characters, their sensor will blare out quite loudly and really give a good indication of the tension of the game. It's got very tense gameplay. Quite a few shocks can occur when an alien will just jump out on you, and it's a good adaptation of the movie, as I mentioned. As I said, not very good at the game personally, but it is a good game nonetheless. In 9th place we have the only arcade conversion that features in this top 10. That's the conversion of Gemini Wing, published in 1989 by Mastertronic Plus, but strangely this was also published in 1989 by Virgin Games, so it seems like it was re-released as a budget title almost immediately. It's a conversion of an arcade game, as I mentioned, vertically scrolling shooter. It's a typical sort of game of that era. You scroll up the screen, collect power-ups, and eventually face an end of level bad guy. It's got really nice graphics, although there's sometimes some issues with colour clash where you can't quite see the bullets very well. That does result in a few lost lives occasionally. It's got a really impressive number of enemies on screen, which does give you a bit of slowdown at a certain point. But despite that, the levels aren't too difficult and progression's reasonably easy through the game. It's got really nice music, excellent tunes, different tune for each level, but sadly no sound effects. It does have a multi-load system, but that's eased in a couple of ways. Firstly, every time you complete a level it gives you a password for the next level, so you don't have to play it again, but quite strangely, once you've completed a level you never have to go back to the start of the game either. When you do lose all your lives, you just kind of replay from that level over and over again, which is kind of a strange mechanism because occasionally you might want to try and play through from the beginning, but in terms of making it easy to progress through the game, it's definitely a good idea. So overall, pretty good arcade conversion, and the only one, as I said, to make it into this top 10. In 8th place we have a re-release of a Melbourne House game, originally published in 1985 and then re-released by Ricochet in 1988. It's the classic Way of the Exploding Fist karate game, obviously one of the best known karate fighting games on the Commodore 64. For a game that's only got a joystick with a single button, it's got a really good selection of moves. You've got moves with and without the button being pressed, somersaults, leg sweeps, all the classic moves for karate games, kicks, punches and so on. It's got great graphics and animation, and the music and sound are really good, especially the sound effects when you're punching your opponent or screaming at them. And it's a good one-player challenge to progress through the 10 levels of the Black Belt Dans. And it's also a great two-player game for one-on-one fighting. It's a great game for its time. It was a really good example of a fighting game of that era, but it's not really comparable to modern fighting games with all their special moves and multiple buttons and projectiles and so on. In 7th place we have a re-release in the grid style Mastertronic packaging. There are only a few of these, and it's a re-release of a game originally published by Digital Integration in 1985. This came out in 1986. It's Speed King, a motorcycle racing game, typical sort of Grand Prix motorbike racing game with a number of tracks based on real life circuits. This version has been changed slightly from the original release. It does have a new loading screen and a new title screen, so it seems that the developer did go back and recreate the game slightly for Mastertronic. It's quite technically impressive for the era, good illusion of speed as you drive around the course, and what I like about this in particular is it's got a really good control mechanism. Instead of pushing up to accelerate, you press fire to accelerate, left and right steer quite obviously, and you use up and down to actually change gear, so that's a really nice implementation of the controls, quite intuitive I think. The graphics are pretty good for the time, nothing spectacular, but you know, there's a nice illusion of speed as I mentioned. Nothing too spectacular about the graphics, but they do the job. The sounds are pretty basic, engine noises, and the title screen tune is terrible, but the title screen does have good presentation with options for different courses, number of laps and so on, and different skill levels. So overall, it's a nice racing game, certainly one of the best of that era. And next up we have the first of several Activision games re-released by Mastertronic, all of which were re-released on their Ricochet packaging. This one is Toy Bazaar, originally released by Activision in 1984, re-released by Mastertronic in 1989. So it was already 5 years old when this edition came out. It's on the first look at it, you'd probably think it's something similar to Mario Brothers, but it's actually a very different game, despite having that single screen platform style look to it. You're working in a factory where everything's going a bit crazy, and there are multiple challenges on each stage. You've got to eliminate enemies and collect balloons. You eliminate them by jumping on switches which make them fly up into the air and destroy them. There's also characters that you can't destroy that you have to try and avoid, and if they kill you if they make contact with you. The graphics are pretty reasonable and the sound's pretty nice for that era as well, but the main thing with this is it's really good gameplay. It gets more and more frantic and chaotic and challenging as the levels progress, and it's got that sort of arcade style action where it's pretty simple to pick up, difficult to master, and every time you play through you'll get a little bit further and try and increase your high scores. So that brings us to the top 5, and in 5th place another Activision game re-released by Mastertronic on the Ricochet packaging. This one was released in 1988. It's Rock and Bolt, originally released by Activision in 1985, and it's something that you might not expect. Having seen many of my videos, you might not expect this to be in my top 10. It's an isometric puzzle game, not my usual style of game, but there's something about it that makes it really enjoyable. Basically all you've got to do on each level is arrange the platforms to sort of match the blueprint that's shown at the bottom of the screen. It starts off relatively easy, but it soon gets challenging with later levels on multiple screens, and there's also a time limit on each stage to complete it, so it does make it quite challenging. I like the graphics on this one, nice graphics, especially the animation of the main character who wanders around the stages drilling and putting these screws in to bolt the platforms down in the correct positions. The sounds and music are also decent, and there's a number of tunes playing throughout the game, so it doesn't get too boring musically. As I said, it's not my usual type of game, but it's just got this addictive quality to it that makes me come back to it and really enjoy trying to progress through the different stages. And in 4th place we have one of the most technically impressive offerings on the Commodore 64 in my opinion. This is a re-release on the Mastertronic Plus packaging from 1989. It's Rescue on Fractal or Fractal, however you want to pronounce it. And that's a re-release of a game originally published by Activision but programmed by Lucasfilm Games in 1985. And the idea of the game is that you fly across an alien landscape to rescue crashed pilots and eliminate enemy gun turrets and ships. It's a pretty simplistic idea, but it's a totally immersive game. You start off in the sort of mothership and descend down onto the planet, fly around the planet, and then rescue the pilots, and then fly back up to the mothership to complete each level. It's got a really perfect difficulty curve, in my opinion. You start off quite simply just rescuing a couple of pilots, and then each level you get more gun turrets firing at you, enemies attacking you in their spaceships, and then occasionally later in the game you get enemy pilots trying to get into your ship, which is quite a memorable moment from the game. It's got very impressive graphics and movement within the environment. You can freely fly across the planet's surface, doing basically whatever you like to find the pilots. The sounds are pretty simple, but they're really effective. The particular standout sounds are when you land near a pilot and you can hear his footsteps approaching the ship, and then he bangs on the door of the ship and you have to let him into the ship to rescue him. It might get a bit repetitive as levels progress, but as I said, because of the difficulty curve being quite nice, each level is a little bit more difficult than the previous one, so you do feel like you're making progress in the game. As I said, it's an outstanding technical achievement on the Commodore 64 and a great game as well. In third place we have Pipeline 2, originally released by Taskset in 1985 as Super Pipeline 2. This was published by Mastertronic in 1986. It's a single screen platformer, arcade style. The aim of the game on each level is pretty simple. All you've got to do is let the liquid flow down the pipe to fill a set number of barrels on each level, but it's made difficult because enemies make holes in the pipe which have to be repaired. So you wander around the level with two guys who assist you. You take them to deploy them to fix the holes in the pipe. It starts off relatively simple but gets more difficult as on each level the pipe gets more convoluted and more enemies appear, various enemies causing danger directly to yourself as well as the two guys that repair the pipes. It's got pretty nice graphics and animation for the era, pretty good tune in the background and nice sound effects. There's nothing spectacular about the game, but it's just really addictive gameplay, arcade style action, easy to pick up, hard to master and nice addictive fun. In second place we have a Ricochet re-release from 1988. This is Dan Dare, Pilot of the Future, originally published by Virgin Games in 1986. And the idea of the game is you control Dan Dare and his mission is to save the world from the Mekon, who's trying to build a giant death ray to destroy the Earth or something along those lines. I don't remember exactly, as you can probably guess. But it's one of the earliest examples of a point and click style game. It's an action adventure game. And although you don't actually control a cursor to point and click, you do move Dan to various points and you get these context sensitive actions. So for example, if he's near an object, you can choose an action to pick the object up, and in other places you might be able to choose to use that object to interact with another object on the screen. The early part of the game is more puzzle based, as you have to infiltrate the Mekon's base from the moon where you land, and then later sections are a little bit more action based, as you have to fight the Mekon guards, the Treens. There's also a lot of exploration as you eventually have to make it to this laser which you use to destroy the Mekon's base. The graphics are nice with good animation and really nicely drawn backgrounds, and you've got this comic book style, these pop-up panels when you do perform actions. The sounds are pretty basic aside from a really nice tune on the title screen. It's a challenging game due to a strict time limit. I've never actually completed it, although I have got close, and there is some frustration from rooms that give an instant game over with no warning, but otherwise it's a really polished and enjoyable game, one that I've gone back to several times and tried to complete. You do tend to get a little bit further each time, but it's definitely a long-term challenge. And so that brings us to the #1 re-release in my opinion. Originally published by Activision in 1984 and re-released by Ricochet once again in 1988. It is the conversion of Ghostbusters. In my opinion, one of the greatest movie to game conversions of all time, not just on the Commodore 64, but from that point until now. There's very few games that capture the essence of the film quite like this one. The idea of the game is that you set up your Ghostbusters franchise, which includes equipping your Ectomobile to go out and capture the ghosts. Then you go out and capture the ghosts, navigating around a city map, ultimately trying to stop the Marshmallow Man from being created, and then facing off against Zool in the finale game, just like the finale of the movie. It's got great gameplay, graphics, music and speech as well. It is kind of repetitive as you go through the game. You will repeat the whole capturing a ghost routine and then driving to and from the headquarters over and over again, but for some reason that doesn't stop it being fun. And this was Mastertronic's best-selling game on the Commodore 64 and most other systems as well, despite it being 4 years old when they released it. So it's not just me that thinks it's one of the greatest re-releases, but obviously the game buying public back then thought the same as well. So that's my top 10 Mastertronic re-releases. If you agree or not, then please do make a comment. And if you want to check out the original reviews of those games, they're all on my YouTube channel.
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
2, 1, 0.